What is your opinion on seal rows with no eccentric for bodybuilding? Would it allow more volume? Martin Berkhan is the pound-for-pound strongest at this lift. That's an interesting title. Yes, but how much can he strict lateral raise?
It's an oddly specific title.
Yeah, and it's absolutely something Martin Berkhan would brag about because he's fucking nuts. But at this lift and says it's the best from form of row. He says a lot of dumb shit like this is the best, this and that. He also says that he trains harder than everyone, but he does like 2 sets to failure 3 times a week. He's like a really smart guy full of amazing ideas and completely fucking insane shit. So treat everyone with a grain of salt. Martin Berkhan especially. Say Poliquin, exactly. Poliquin had tons of like, wow, holy shit, I never thought of this. And then tons of shit where you're like, you're just lying. You must be lying because you're not this stupid, right? So Darren Hawkins, the best answer here is let's just pick this apart. Seal rows with no eccentric. Okay, so eccentrics are really, really good for hypertrophy, so we wouldn't want to just get rid of them. We'd have to have a good reason to do so. So I would say that's probably not great. But if you have a situation where you can use a lot more weight without a really controlled eccentric, it might be, if it's getting you a good pump, good mind-muscle connection, stuff like that, then that's fine, right? But it's certainly not a gold standard. And I would say if someone has an exercise that really milks the eccentric or is conducive for doing so, I'm much more prepared to hear how great of an exercise it is for bodybuilding. When something is necessarily no eccentric, I'm already skeptical that it would have to be real good mind-muscle connection for me to be like, oh yeah, it's worth dumping the eccentric, right? And then would it allow more volume? Yes, but if that volume is not as stimulative, then that's all purposeless. Remember, you don't want to allow more volume. You want to allow more stimulus. If that volume brings a little more stimulus, that's good, but just more volume for its own sake is not great. And the best form of row, there's no such thing, right? But it seems like a swell form of row. The reason it can't be the best is because it doesn't train the spinal erectors and a lot of the other musculature that is basically canceled out by you lying on a bench doing seal rows. So the best row, if you had to pick, which you shouldn't and can't, is a barbell bent over row, very strict. But the seal row can be great. And Darren, try it. And if you like it after a few months, fucking use it. And if you're like, man, this sucks, then don't. I know some people, Alberto Nunez of 3DMJ loves the seal row, and he says it's amazing. And fucking kudos to him. Then I think people should use it if it works. I hate it, and I don't get anything out of it. And I would never say it's a bad exercise because it just doesn't seem to tick my boxes as far as mind muscle connection or pump or soreness or anything like that. And I like some other exercises better, which other people don't like. So there's no good reason to go looking for the best exercise. Because here's the thing: if you pick the best exercise, it'll get stale anyway. You'll have to pick another one sooner or later.
True. So I agree with Dr. Mike here, and no surprise, we're kind of on opposite sides of the exercise selection spectrum again. I like the seal row, especially with the cambered bar. So the way I would usually program it for somebody is use a cam bar and just do like a light hyperextension. Like Mike said, you can't really load the spinal erectors that much, but you could add like a little kind of like a Superman style light extension, and that seems to help. The thing with taking out the concentric, aside from what Mike already said, the eccentric, is that I think that's really appealing for people who don't get a lot out of rows because they don't know how to control their technique and their scapulus very well. Because we've already talked about this on many episodes where a lot of people do rows and they just lock up their scaps and then they're just kind of doing that from that point on, right? The seal row really allows you to actually really get a good protraction, retraction, at least in my experience, especially if you have that cam bar. So I think for people who get frustrated on rows, it just gives them an excuse to continue doing the same shit that they always do rather than actually trying to really focus on correcting the technique, getting a good mind-muscle connection with the scapular retraction and protraction. And again, it's easy for me to say that, but it's hard. It's a hard thing to do, and it's something even when we were professors, when we would have labs, it was very difficult to kind of get students used to the idea of keeping one part of their back arched or rigid or neutral and allowing the protraction and retraction to occur independently. It's not an easy thing to do. So I think that concentric only is just an excuse to be like, all right, locked up, and you're just doing the same shit that you would be doing anyway. So I think that is not a good idea. Not to mention that this is a stupid problem, but wear and tear on your equipment too. If you don't mind replacing your weights and your bars every couple of years, then that's not a big deal. But for most of us, if the goal is to try and use more weight and just drop it every single time, man, you're going to wear out that bar and those collars pretty quick. So I would not recommend it, though I do like the exercise. But again, I think the benefit of the exercise is that you can turn your brain off to the hard stuff, which is trying to maintain your posture while doing the protraction and retraction. And this, all you have to do is focus on doing the protraction and retraction and not the postural part. So that's a big win. So do it. That's the whole point. It's like doing the chest supported row. Same idea. Like that is one of the big benefits of doing that. On the chest supported, you can kind of lean back into it a little bit more, but same idea.